All right, gang, that is a great transition. Good morning, Russ. Thank you for that music. So, gang, let's get into the message here today because we don't have a lot of time, but a lot of information to get through. You know, it's so interesting. I've been in this business for nearly 30 years, and I have never seen a market where inventories are as low as they are. And so, if you're brand new to the business and you wonder, is this normal? Well, the answer is it is not. It's not normal. But I have to say this, that I firmly believe that it is going to be our new normal for a while, because I see no end in sight for quite some time. And so we've got to figure out how to deal with the low inventory. If it's going to be with us for a while, which I absolutely am certain that it will be, then we've got to figure out how to work in that sort of market and be successful. And what is interesting is that I'm coaching several people, and there are many agents within this organization who have made more money in the last year than they ever have. That despite the low inventories, that they are still succeeding at a very high level. In fact, progressing, doing better than they've ever done. And so the real question is, how does that happen? Well, I think that it comes down to this observation that it's really gimmicks versus the fundamentals. I'm going to say that again. It's really about gimmicks versus the fundamentals. See, look, I don't care what we're talking about in life. It could be a skill such as playing a musical instrument. It could be a discipline such as law or medicine or engineering. It could be the skill of going out and selling real estate. Doesn't matter what it is. I believe that there are laws, fundamental things that never change. It's like the will. As much as you want to change the will is the will, and you can't make it more round. And I watch people in life take the will, quote unquote will, just use that as a euphemism for anything, right? They try to take the will and they try to change it, try to improve it, try to modify it. And the fact is that the will is perfect as it is. The best thing that people could do with the will is actually use it, as opposed to spending their time trying to figure out how to change it. My point is that there are rules, there are fundamental things that if we just simply were to observe those and we were to embrace those things, that we would enjoy the success that we want. Most people fundamentally choose not to follow the rules, choose to ignore the rules, choose to change the rules, as opposed to embracing them. So my message this morning is more about, look, because most of these things that I'm going to talk about, they're no-brainers. They're logical. They make sense, or you already know. The real question is, are you really doing these things? Are you paying attention to the fundamentals and leveraging those things so that you can get the results that you want? Hey, look, I call it the Walmart principle, or the Amazon principle now, because Amazon is such a juggernaut on the online market. But if you remember the movie Field of Dreams, the line and the tagline in that movie was, if you build it, they will come. Well, real estate is really no different. If you'll have the inventory, buyers will come. See, what is interesting is that I watch the agents who are most successful in this market are the same agents who are most successful in a normal market, as well as agents who are successful in a down market, in an upwardly moving market. In other words, in any market, the agents who are most successful are the agents who are best at getting listings. Look, gang, when you think about working with buyers can be 2 times or more expensive to work with than sellers. They're always more expensive. And what is interesting is that they're even more so expensive today than they were 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, because of the low inventory. I mean, if a buyer costs 2 times as much to work with as a seller, it's probably that they're 3 times as expensive to work with in this market. So the key then is that we've got to focus on getting listings. But if you're going to be working with buyers, which all of you or most of you will, then make certain that they are highly qualified. It's one of the things we talk about in the 12 steps to the summit of success, working with highly qualified buyers. So what I would like you to do is this, because with all the agents that I'm talking to, and I talk to a lot, and those that I am coaching, none of them is short on having buyers. I mean, I'm talking to agents who have 15 and 20 buyers. And when I say buyers, many of them having signed buyer broker agreements, not just leads, but these are people who are quote unquote, earnestly looking to buy real estate. So what I would suggest that you do, whether you have just a handful or you've got a lot, my suggestion is that you write down all of your buyers' names. And then next to their names, what I want you to do is I want you to rank them based upon the most likely to buy now and then the least likely to buy now. See, what I want you to do is determine who's going to do something now, who is the most motivated, who is the most realistic, and then work with those people first. Now, look, as you do that and you identify those people who have the most motivation and are the most realistic given the current circumstances, because look, if you've got people who are looking for a deal, this is not the market for a deal. The only person in this market that's going to get a quote unquote deal is going to be the seller. They're going to get a great deal. You know, they're going to get likely what you list the home for and more, right? This is not a buyer's market. This is a seller's market. So put together your list of buyers, rank them, and then I want you to then make them more competitive as you go out and you work to show them properties and make offers. I want you to just consider these things. Number one, make certain that they're financially qualified, not just pre-qualified, but take them through, as in Spiro's offering, take them through a qualification process, only subject to the home being appraised. One of the greatest things that you can do in today's marketplace is improve your buyer's reputation or appearance to the sellers by increasing their qualification, by increasing the likelihood from the seller's perspective that the buyer is actually going to be able to get financing and close on the home. So make certain that, in fact, you are getting them qualified. There is no reason, I would say it's unacceptable, that you would be working with a buyer in today's market and not have them qualified subject to only the appraisal getting done and, of course, the due diligence. It would make zero sense in this market. If you're showing people and you only have them pre-qualified or not qualified at all, and you're showing them properties, you are on the fast track to going out of business in this market, period. Make certain that they are financially qualified. Also, take a look at the price and terms that they're willing to offer, right? Make certain you ask questions and understand what their numbers are. You know, the worst case scenario, in other words, what's the most that they would be willing to pay? Worst case scenario. They may not want to start there, but understanding that if they're making offers and it's time to make an offer and you realize that there are going to be multiple offers, they've really got to be, in their mind, settled on the idea that they're going to be okay going to that quote unquote worst case scenario to ensure that they give themselves the best chance possible of getting home. And even in that case, it's not guaranteed. So make certain that they understand what price, the highest price that they're willing to pay, and then also what terms, the earnest money deposit, right? I mean, right now, the fact is that we're seeing earnest money deposits that are much greater than we've historically seen. In other words, buyers looking to become more competitive as they go out and bid against one another to get those so few properties. Another opportunity to increase your buyer's appeal to the listing agent as well as to the sellers is to make certain that you talk to them about the opportunity of giving the seller time to rent back or occupy the property for some time after closing. You know, anything that you can do to make it easier on the seller and more appealing to the seller to choose your buyers versus the competition. And then this one I would say is exceptionally important. In fact, I would say that it is, aside from having your buyer actually qualified, this one ranks right up there with it. It's being exceptional as a communicator with the listing agent. Look, gang, what I know is this, that in that whole formula, that whole equation of listing agent, buyer's agent, you representing the buyer and going in and trying to make your buyer more competitive, the single most important thing that you can do to make your buyer more competitive is for you to be the leader that you are and to communicate very effectively with that listing agent. Communicate often and communicate effectively. See, this process of working with a listing agent in today's market is so much more important than it's ever been because of the low inventory. See, sellers have choices. People are lining up. I was talking to an agent just last week, and they had 60 showings in one day, gang, 60. And they were lined up like a train, just one after the other, after the other, after the other. Sellers have choices. So, man, it is important that because sellers have choices, that you build the best possible relationship with that listing agent. Because look, if you build rapport with them and they like, trust, and respect you, your chances of them choosing your offer or presenting your offer in a more positive light goes up exponentially. You can't expect that the listing agent is going to be excited about working with you if you're not communicating effectively. Don't let them feel like they are in the dark. Don't let them feel like there is uncertainty in the transaction. Make certain that you engage early and often, and that you be that leader, that great communicator. Assume that role, assume the lead in that transaction, and your chances of getting the seller to accept, assuming that the terms of the offer are competitive, will go up dramatically. And then the final thing I would say is make certain that you offer some sort of like buyer cover letter on the offer. Give your buyers an opportunity to really tell their story and why it is that they would like to purchase the seller's home. A very simple but a very effective way to get the seller to connect emotionally to the buyer. Because gang, look, we all know this. Real estate is a very emotional process for the buyers and for the sellers. And anything that we can do to create positive emotion, to get people to move in the right direction, to create a connection, our chances of putting together a transaction go up exponentially. The second thing that I would say about what we can do in today's market to increase our chances is to understand this: our chances of getting a home under contract. It's recognized that real estate is 90% people and 10% process. I want you to write that down. Real estate is 90% people and 10% process. Real estate is not about real estate, gang. It's not about homes. You don't get to change the inventory. You don't get to improve the inventory. You just get an opportunity to list the inventory and sell the inventory. But the only way to do that is to work with people. You've got to get in the way. You've got to get in between the real estate and the people. In other words, the sellers and the buyers. So what you must do is you've got to talk to people. The number one key is to be consistent at prospecting. This is so more true today than it has ever been. See, in a normal market, you could take your chances. You know, the home that was listed could sit on the market for weeks or months, and you could just go out and find buyer after buyer. You could find opportunities. In today's market, the market moves too quickly. You don't have that time. So you've got to go out and talk to people. You've got to very quickly find the buyers, find the sellers, and put them together very quickly. Look, real estate is not a retail business. It's not brick and mortar where people walk in. You know, when I got into the business almost 30 years ago, one of the key components to generating business was to have floor time, have signs out front, and people would walk in and ask for a real estate agent. That just virtually doesn't happen anymore. That's gone. Real estate is a direct sales business. And so therefore, as the salesperson, you have to go out and find the buyers. You have to find the sellers and put those two together. So real estate is 90% people. And the only way to work with people, gang, is to talk to them. You have got to talk to them. So I ask you this question: what percentage of your time on a daily basis, knowing that 90% of real estate is people and talking to them, what percentage of your day is spent talking to people? I guarantee you there is a direct correlation between those who are top producers and the amount of time that they spend talking to people, prospecting. There is a correlation between those who don't talk to people and their incomes. There is a positive correlation. When you talk to more people, your income will go up. When you talk to less people, your income will go down. I know you know this, but I just want you to understand that in this market, that is so much more important because the inventory is so low. You have got to go out and find it because it is not going to come to you. And it happens so quickly. You blink your eye and the home is gone. And then the third thing is this. I want you to write this down. 75% of my opportunity is in follow-up. 75% of your business opportunity is in follow-up. For those of you in Utah, you would know the name Dave Stocco. I remember asking Dave several years ago. He was an agent who was exceptional at working with FSBOs and expireds. He'd do 50 transactions or more a year, and the vast majority of those with FSBOs and expireds. And I asked him, how many times do you have to call a seller in order to get them to meet with you and sign a listing agreement? And Dave's answer was interesting. He said it's between 5 and 7 times. Now, this is a guy who was highly skilled at prospecting, and yet he said it takes 5 to 7 times. So my question for you is, if you want more listings, if you want more opportunities, are you contacting the potential sellers, and are you following up with them? Look, gang, people are socialized to say no. I remember very distinctly, this happened a lot, but I remember one particular conversation several years ago. I was making just listed, just sold calls. And I'd called this what sounded like a young woman. And I eventually found out that it was a relatively young woman with a young family. And I'd asked her if she had any plans on moving now or in the near future. And she said, no, we've been in our home about 4 years and don't plan on moving. And so I just continue to ask questions, just following the script. And what is interesting is because I continued the conversation, despite the fact that she said no, I built rapport with her, and she began to open up. She began to feel safe enough to actually tell me what was going on in their lives. And what she told me is that her husband had had an accident and had some severe knee issues, had some surgery, and has chronic issues with his knee. And it's difficult, if not almost impossible, for him to get up and down stairs, and that they live in a 2-story. And she said to me, they had been talking about actually selling the home and finding a Rambler. Now, that is not what she told me just 15 minutes prior. She told me, no, they were planning on staying in the home. Now, why would she do that? Well, she did that because I was a stranger calling her and just simply asking her if she had any plans on moving. She didn't feel safe. And so her knee-jerk reaction, because remember, people are socialized to say no, she said, no, we have no interest. It's no different than you when you go into a department store and the sales clerk asks you, may I help you? And you say, no, I'm just looking. There isn't any of you who's sane who just walks into a store to look. And if that's what you do, I've got a straitjacket for you. I don't go into stores just to look. It drives me nuts. Now, I know some of you do that, but the fact is most people don't. When you go to a store, you're not just browsing, you're looking because you have something in mind that you want to purchase. Remember that. When you call people and ask them if they're interested in buying or selling real estate, their knee-jerk reaction is to say no. And sometimes you can build enough rapport in the conversation, the first one, to get them to open up and say that they actually are, like I did with that gal. Or sometimes it takes, as Dave Stocco said, 5 to 7 calls. But look, it's one of those rules. You can ignore it or you can accept it. Ignore it to your peril or accept it to your success. 75% of your opportunity in this market will come through follow-up, guys and gals. And then the fourth thing is this. Look, if you want to increase your chances of getting a listing in today's marketplace, remember that, look, you have to get in the way. You have to talk to people. So in California, door drop, get material out to people answering that question. How is the market? Do comparative market analysis for them. And then pick up the phone and follow up with that information to confirm that they got it. In Utah, do the same thing. Door knock, though. You can door knock there. Okay, get noticed and get in the way. Don't be that secret agent. I can tell you, if you're looking at people in your office and they're selling a ton of real estate, is because they've chosen not to be a secret agent. I guarantee you, on a daily basis, they're talking to more people than you. There's a direct correlation between the number of people you talk to and the amount of money that you earn in the business of real estate. So door drop, door knock, do the market analysis, pick up the phone and follow up with those door drops and the door knocks. And then finally this, increase your chances of getting listings by improving your presentation. Look, the last thing that you want to do in today's marketplace, when it is so difficult to get a listing, is to lose out on it in a competitive situation. All of that work that you put into it, and then to not get it, how frustrating. So gang, make certain that you have memorized a script. If you haven't, memorize it, and then practice it, and then record it. One of the best things that you can do is to record your live presentations and then get your broker, your manager, your coach to listen to it so that you can improve the way in which you present. This business is about people. It's not about process. It's about people. And the better you are at communicating with people, the better your chances are of actually getting listings, selling a ton of real estate, and being highly successful in the business of real estate. This business is a very easy business when you recognize the fundamentals. It's a very difficult business when you look at gimmicks and try to replace the fundamentals with gimmicks. See, this list that I've covered here is the same list that I would give you in any market, because these fundamentals were the same when I got into the business nearly 30 years ago, and they will be the same in this business 30 years from now. So my question for you is, are you going to just simply submit to the fundamentals, or are you going to resist them? It's your choice. You get to choose what you're going to do. So gang, look, what I want for you is to have more buyers. What I want for you is to have more sellers, but I want you to do it in a way that is effective. In this market, it is very easy for you to go broke. You can go broke working with buyers who aren't qualified. You can go broke, and you can go broke by not having enough sellers. Don't let that happen. It doesn't have to be your experience. Don't let the low inventory be your excuse for not having listings, because you can look in your own offices in this company, in your market, with agents who have a ton of listings in this market. They just sell quickly. I want you to be the employer, not the employee. I want you to be that agent who goes out and lists a property and then employs the buyer's agent to do the tough work of competing with 10, 15, 20, 30, 60 offers. See, in this market, you get to apply for a job. You get to apply for the job of being that listing agent, or you get to apply for the job of being the buyer's agent. Man, I only know this, that if I were selling actively in today's marketplace, I would consistently apply to be the listing agent. That's the job that I want, because you make more money, it takes less time, there's less brain damage involved in it, and you play the role of the employer. You list the home, you get the listing commission, and you pay a buyer's agent to go out there and do the hard work to show the listing over and over and over again. What a cool relationship. So you got to decide, which job are you going to apply for every single day? I hope you apply for the listing agent job, because that's where the money is, gang. All right, let's finish this up with some closing affirmations. Great job on being here. Go out there, make sure you're making those calls, prospect consistently, and follow up with people and improve your presentation. All right, I succeed because I act on my goals. I'm an